The sirens cut through the cold morning air just outside a quiet town in upstate New York. Red and blue lights flashed across a narrow dirt road that led into a dense stretch of forest. Patrol cars were already lined up, engines running, doors open. Officers stood frozen, staring at something just beyond the tree line. Detective Laura Bennett stepped out of her car, pulling her coat tighter as the wind carried the sharp scent of pine and damp earth. She had been called in at 5:12 a.m. with only 3 words: possible homicide scene. But the moment she saw the body, she knew this was more than that. A young man lay on his back, half covered in fallen leaves. His skin was pale, almost gray under the morning light. There were no visible signs of a struggle. No blood pooling beneath him. No weapon nearby. Just stillness. Who found him? Laura asked, crouching carefully beside the body. Local hiker, Officer Reyes replied. Came through here every morning. Said the body wasn't here yesterday. Laura nodded slowly, her eyes scanning every detail. The man looked to be in his early 30s. Clean clothes. No tears, no dirt stains. His hands were positioned strangely, resting at his sides like someone had placed them there. This doesn't feel right, she muttered. Reyes shifted uneasily. What do you mean? Laura stood up, looking around the forest floor. If he died here, there should be something. Disturbance. Marks. Anything. But this, she gestured toward the body, this looks staged. Within minutes, the crime scene unit arrived. Cameras clicked. Evidence markers were placed. The forest, once silent, now buzzed with controlled chaos. An ID was quickly recovered from the victim's wallet. Ethan Cole. The name hit harder than expected. Laura's expression tightened. Ethan Cole, isn't he the financial analyst from Albany? Reyes nodded. Yeah. Works for a big firm. Clean record. No known enemies. Laura frowned. Everyone has something. Hours later, the body was transported to the medical examiner's office. Preliminary observations suggested no obvious trauma, no defensive wounds. It looked almost peaceful. Too peaceful. Back at the station, Laura sat across from Detective Mark Harlan, her partner of 7 years. He slid a file across the table. Ethan Cole. 32. Lives alone. No criminal history. Last seen last night around 8:30 p.m. leaving his office. Laura flipped through the photos. Anyone report him missing? No. Not yet. She leaned back in her chair, thinking. So we have a body that appears out of nowhere, no signs of a struggle, and a timeline that starts last night. Mark nodded. So far, it's straightforward. Laura didn't respond. Because it didn't feel straightforward. Not even close. By noon, the first layer of the timeline began to form. Surveillance footage from Ethan's office building showed him leaving at exactly 8:27 p.m. He walked calmly to his car, got in, and drove off. Traffic cameras picked him up heading north, away from his apartment, away from the city, toward the forest. Why would he go there? Mark asked. Laura stared at the screen. That's what we need to find out. They tracked his car to a nearby gas station at 9:03 p.m. The footage showed Ethan stepping out, buying a bottle of water, and checking his phone. He looked normal. No signs of stress. No one following him. Then, nothing. No more footage. No witnesses. It was like he vanished into thin air. Until his body appeared the next morning. Time of death. Laura asked over the phone with the medical examiner. Preliminary estimate, between 10 p.m. and midnight. Laura hung up and turned to Mark. That puts him dead before midnight. Mark nodded. Matches the timeline. But Laura's eyes were distant. Then why does this feel wrong? Late that evening, the full autopsy report came in. Laura read it once. Then again. Then a third time, slower. Her heartbeat began to rise. Mark, you need to see this. He walked over, reading over her shoulder. Cause of death. Cardiac arrest? Laura pointed lower. Keep reading. Mark's expression changed. Body temperature, lividity patterns. He looked up, confused. What does this mean? Laura swallowed hard. It means, she said slowly, his body shows signs that he died at least 24 hours before he was found. The room went silent. Mark shook his head. That's impossible. We have him alive on camera last night. Laura nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Exactly. She stood up, pacing the room. If the autopsy is right, then Ethan Cole was already dead, before anyone saw him leaving that office. Mark stared at her. That doesn't make any sense. Laura stopped, her eyes sharp now. No, she said. It doesn't. She turned back to the report, one detail now burning in her mind. A faint trace found under Ethan's fingernails. Not dirt, not blood, but something far stranger. A synthetic fiber, commonly used in hospital-grade body bags. Laura's voice dropped, cold and steady. Mark, someone didn't just kill him. She looked up, her eyes locked with his. They moved him. And they made sure we believed a lie. And for the first time since the case began, the timeline didn't just look wrong. It looked impossible. The room felt heavier now, like the truth was already inside, waiting to be exposed. Laura slid the report forward, knowing nothing about this case made sense anymore. Mark stared at the numbers again, hoping they would somehow change. But the timeline refused to move, it stayed impossible. And the fibers under Ethan's nails made things even worse. They didn't belong in a forest, they belonged in a controlled place. A place like a hospital, or somewhere designed to hide bodies. Laura didn't wait, she needed answers and fast. She pushed for records, but something felt off. Ethan Cole's name wasn't supposed to be there, but it was. Admitted, then discharged, 2 days ago. The footage showed him inside, barely able to walk. He didn't look like a man heading back to work. And someone was watching him, making sure he left. Laura slowed the video, and saw someone else. A figure that didn't belong there. That person followed him, Mark said quietly. Then, just like that, they were gone. And seconds later the system crashed. Someone was erasing the trail, in real time. This isn't random, Laura said. We're being watched. Outside the air felt colder, heavier. And she wasn't alone. Someone was following her. She spun around, ready for anything. But there was nothing, just silence. That silence felt wrong. Then she saw it. An envelope, waiting for her. Inside, a single photograph. Ethan, already dead. Before he was ever seen leaving the building. The timeline wasn't just wrong. Someone was controlling it. And they were closer than she thought. Her phone rang. She hesitated, then answered. A voice whispered, calm and cold. You're looking in the wrong place. Her grip tightened. He was never supposed to be found. The words hit harder than anything else. This wasn't just a murder anymore. It was something bigger. The line went dead. And just like that, they were gone again. But they left something behind. A truth no one was supposed to see. Somewhere, this all started. And now, she was walking straight into it. The hospital felt different now, like it was hiding something alive inside it. Laura didn't slow down, she knew this was where it began. Mark followed, but even he could feel it, they were being pulled in. A door that shouldn't be open, was waiting. And behind it, the truth finally started to show. This place wasn't on any official record. And it wasn't built to save lives. It was built to control them. Then she found the files. Ethan wasn't just a victim. He was being watched, studied. 4 days before he died, Ethan Cole had been here, watched, monitored, reduced to a subject inside a system no one was supposed to find. She turned toward the screens. He wasn't the only one. Rows of patient feeds filled the monitor. Motionless bodies, silent rooms, controlled environments. Each one labeled. Each one tracked. There were others. Many others. Mark stepped back slowly, his voice barely holding steady. This isn't legal. Laura didn't even look at him. No, she said quietly. It's controlled. Then suddenly, the lights flickered. And everything went dark. A sharp hum filled the room before emergency lighting snapped on, flooding the space in a deep red glow that made everything feel wrong, distorted. The door behind them slammed shut. Laura spun around instantly, grabbing the handle and pulling hard. Lock. Her voice dropped, tight with urgency. Someone's here. Footsteps echoed just outside the room. Slow. Measured. Deliberate. They weren't alone anymore. A shadow passed beneath the door, just enough to be seen. Whoever had been watching, had been waiting. Laura's eyes moved quickly, scanning the room, and then she saw it. A small camera in the corner. Blinking red. Every move they made, every word they spoke, was already being seen. Too late. A crackle broke the silence. The speaker mounted on the wall came alive with a low burst of static. Then the voice returned. Come. Controlled. Familiar. You weren't supposed to find this. Laura stepped forward, her voice sharp. Who are you? Silence followed. Heavy. Pressing. Then something slipped from her hand. A file. It hit the ground with a soft thud, but the sound echoed louder than it should have. Her eyes dropped. And froze. At the bottom of the page, a signature. Her breath caught. Detective Mark Harlan. Slowly, she turned. Mark stood behind her, still, unreadable, his face half hidden in shadow. And in that moment, everything made sense. He didn't move. Because he didn't need to. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he said quietly. Laura's voice shook, but not from fear. From anger. You moved the body. Pause. Then a small nod. And changed the timeline. Her mind raced, piecing it together, the fibers, the impossible autopsy, the staged scene. Ethan didn't die in the forest. He died here. Inside this place. Inside this system. But the story had been rewritten. Mark stepped closer, his presence suddenly heavier, colder. We needed control, he said. Laura shook her head slowly, disbelief cutting through her voice. At what cost? Mark didn't answer. Because there was no answer that could justify it. In the distance, faint at first, then growing louder. Sirens. Blue and red lights flickered faintly through the narrow window. Someone else had found the truth. Mark's eyes shifted toward the sound. Calculating. Time was running out. Laura stepped forward, steady now. Certain. This ends now. For a moment it looked like he might respond. Like he might fight it. But instead, Mark smiled. A small, quiet smile that didn't reach his eyes. And then he stepped back. Into the shadows. Moments later, the door burst open. Officers rushed in, weapons raised, voices sharp, filling the room with chaos. But it was already too late. The room was empty. Files scattered across the floor. Screens still flickering. No sign of Mark. He was gone. Just like that. As if he had never been there at all. The case was sealed within days. Official reports called it a contained internal investigation. No public statement. No full disclosure. Just silence. But Laura never stopped looking. Because she knew the truth hadn't ended. It had only moved. 3 months later. Another body was found. Different city. Same condition. No signs of struggle. Placed, not dropped. And when the autopsy came back, the timeline didn't match. Again.